The following stories are from the subreddit Let's Not Meet. Before I start, I'd like to remind everyone that these stories are true, so any one of these could have happened to you. So this happened to my mom 21 years ago, when my brother and I were only kids. We used to live pretty far out of town, like a 5-minute drive, which doesn't sound like much, but it was far enough out to not get many visitors unless they were invited. She moved to this little house because she was only after getting a divorce from my dad, and the guy that owned the house she was renting felt sorry for her and gave her a really good price for the rent, so she didn't mind that it was a tiny house in the middle of nowhere. So one night this guy calls at the house and knocks on the front door, so my mom goes to answer it. In our town, your mind doesn't instantly jump to worst case scenario. This young guy, mid-20s, at the door was covered in blood, dirt, and completely out of breath. He asked my mom if he could use the phone. He hit an animal with his car and needed a taxi. My mom said, "No, sorry, go somewhere else." At this point, he stuck his foot in the door and said, "Can I use your phone?" I should point out that my uncle, who's a joiner slash handyman, 6'3", fairly big, was out with my mom at the time fixing something in the kitchen, I think. He came to the front door, saw the guy, and told him to fuck off. Followed after the guy to the road and watched as he jumped into a nearby field and just started running in the pitch black. He decided to stay the night just in case the guy came back. Next morning, my mom was about to take my brother and I to school. The police showed up and wouldn't let my mom leave the house. Turns out the guy was arrested after brutally killing a young kid, 11 years old, just shortly before calling at our house, I assume. Still kind of freaks me out to this day. What would happen if my uncle hadn't been there that night? Now, the author of the story was kind enough to provide a link for more information regarding this story. Everybody who's interested, check down below in the description for the link. So this happened about 7 or so years ago when I was still living at home with my mom. We lived on the first floor, my aunt on the second floor, and our neighbor on the third floor who we were close with, Cindy. We were all friendly in our building, and I never felt unsafe or uneasy at any time. One day, my mom was doing laundry in the basement and noticed a couple of her blankets were missing. She thought it was odd, thought maybe my aunt mistakenly had taken them, so she was kind of like whatever about it. A couple days later, she hears noises in the basement. We live on the first floor and you can hear everything down there. It was late at night and she didn't want to go down there and check, but she went outside on the porch to have a cigarette and noticed the cellar door leading outside was open when she always closed it at night. She closed it and went inside thinking maybe the wind opened it and a raccoon or something got into the basement. It's happened before. Nothing weird happens for over a week till she notices clothes missing. Now, she knows something is up because my dad was the only male in the building and it was men's clothes that were missing, and it smelled really bad down there. She brings it up to my aunt and also asks about the blankets. My aunt says she never touched them. The next day, my mom was doing laundry again, and she noticed something in her empty flower pot in the basement. It had human feces in it, quite a lot, like someone had been using it for a while. She is disgusted and freaked out. She decides to check the back room of the basement. I've never liked going back there. No matter how much light you bring and the 2 lights in the ceiling, it's always so dark and creepy. After this, I never go back there alone. She finds back there a bunch of her blankets, a sleeping bag, some clothes, and more shit. Then she notices something stir under the sleeping bag. It was a man. My mom freaked out and asked who the hell he was and that she would call the cops. My aunt heard the racket and came down to the basement and recognized him. Turns out he was Cindy's brother, who recently had nowhere to live because he was a drug addict and generally not a very good person. My mom told Cindy and she talked to her brother and told him he had to leave. I guess he didn't bother asking Cindy if he could stay with her knowing she'd say no. So he decided to squat in our basement for weeks. It scared me a lot, and ever since I always hate going down there alone. I can't help but draw my eyes to the back room entryway, my heart pounding, waiting for a person to appear. My mom says she didn't call the cops because she didn't want to upset Cindy, which is nice, I suppose, and nice that Cindy was able to make him leave without trouble. I felt kind of bad and sad for him, really, but still. My neighbor's troubled brother, let's not meet. Who knows what you were capable of? Ever since I was young, I've had a terrible fear of being around windows after dark. It always starts out as an uneasy feeling, a queasiness that I can suppress. Then comes the hyper-awareness. I'm not cognizant of it, but I can suddenly hear every little sound. The fear moves into my lungs, burning, but my fingers are numb with cold, and I am frozen in place. The fear is surging through my veins and oozing from my pores. The small hairs on the back of my neck begin to stand up, and I feel the need to bolt. Suddenly, I'm standing in the kitchen drinking a glass of water, reassuring myself there's nothing to fear. This isn't a one-time thing. I'm 25 years old, and I still lose my shit every time I'm near a window with held blinds after dark. I've tried to overcome my fear, but at this point I've chalked it up to being a quirk. As a child, I was never afraid of the dark, or monsters under my bed. In fact, in order to avoid windows, I would often sleep under my bed, to the detriment of my parents, who would check on me and go into full-blown panic when they thought I'd been kidnapped. I was an independent child, so I never told them about this fear until recently. My mother and I have been talking about spooky things. I love when she tells me her ghost stories, especially because these times are few and far between. But every now and then I get lucky, so I do enjoy the creepy and paranormal. So in the heat of the moment, I told my mother that I hadn't really experienced any ghosts, but that I had some weird dreams and this strange fear of windows at night. Boy, do I wish the ghost stories had continued. My mother looked at me dead in the face and paused for a moment before responding. When you were little, we hadn't put blinds in your window. The trees in the front were thick enough that a passing car couldn't see through it. One night we got a call from Auntie and Mike from church. They were driving home from Bible study when they passed by. They said their car headlights illuminated a man standing in the woods near the street watching you through your window. They called us as soon as they arrived home, and we immediately called the police, but the man was gone by the time the police had arrived. We never told you because we didn't want you to be scared. Man that stood on my street corner at night when I was just a kid, let's not meet. Hey guys, Sin here. Just want to say thank you for tuning in. If you liked the video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I tried something a little different with my mic, so please let me know what you guys thought. Also, if there's anything you think that I should work on, please feel free to leave a comment below, and as long as it is constructed well, I will take it into consideration. I would also like to thank everybody who gave me permission to use their story. Without them, this video would not be possible.